We've been hearing for the last week or so about how lackluster the build to WrestleMania is, how much that WWE needs to get on track starting this week to make this WrestleMania season have some life on it, to have this WrestleMania feel like it has some life in it. Did they deliver on that this week? Was this an improvement on the road to WrestleMania? Let's discuss all of it. This is the Nocturnal Night Knockout. I am Rob. We are Brass Ring Media right here on the One True Sport YouTube channel, breaking down your Monday, March 31st, 2025 edition of Monday Night Raw. For the third week in a row, we kick off Monday Night Raw with a John Cena, Cody Rhodes segment. Did they improve on their recent work? Did they regress? Was this an interesting chapter in this story? Or has any of this even been necessary? We also had an appearance tonight by the New Catch Republic and the New Day declaring their spot in the tag title division. Uso versus Gunther tonight, but not the one we're going to get in a couple of weeks. That angle, though, getting a little colorful this week. Have they done enough to save that angle? Progression on the Intercontinental title scene. A rare win for the Judgment Day. What could that mean? AJ Styles and Logan Paul finally had their face-off. They, as you may imagine, were both received slightly differently in the UK. And wouldn't you know it, in our main event, someone who isn't a regular referee probably isn't as good as reffing as a full-time referee. And we have a pretty obvious triple threat match brewing in the women's division. All that and more on your Raw review. What's up, guys? It's been a couple of weeks. These Raw and the UK schedules make it easier and harder sometimes to do these post shows. Like 3 weeks ago, I was off of work. I got to do it live. Last week, it really messed up the schedule. This week, slight delay. So you can think of this as a really late post show if you watched Raw live, or just think of it as really early compared to the normal post show. We're starting out like an hour and change earlier than we normally do on the Nocturnal Knockout. Now, with the exception of the last month, usually we come on every Monday right after Raw. We break it down. We're going to do that. Going to continue to do that segment by segment. We'll go through it all, breaking down the road to WrestleMania. We'll see how the overall card was affected by tonight's show. But if you want to get in on the conversation like you guys always do, go ahead and get in on the chat. Get in on the conversation. Steer the direction of the show. Get your takes in. Get your rants in. Get your opinions. Correct me on some things. And if you're feeling a little extra special, go ahead and get in one of those great and generous super chats. As mentioned earlier, I'm Rob. This is the Nocturnal Knockout, a Brass Ring Media podcast on the One True Sport YouTube channel for Monday, March 31st. Your post show, Raw post show. All right. As I mentioned in the top, this week started out the way the last few weeks have started out. Cody and Cena, the new heel Cena. After a couple of weeks where we didn't hear from him at all, we have 3 straight weeks of hearing from Cena. And you had the same basic setup that we've had the last few weeks on Raw. A little bit of a silence with the crowd. No music. Dueling chants. Cena was in the ring for a while, but then unlike the last few weeks where Cena was able to get everything off of his chest, and then we had the induction of Cody Rhodes. No waiting for Cody this week. We had Cody come right out to confront Cena, saying he's done hearing him talk. Cody references his lisp and his neck tattoo, but says that Cena's been lying for the last few weeks about what his true intentions and why he did it. Cena responds saying he's going to bury Cody. Says that he doesn't bury talent, he is talent. He says he's so great that he could hand this company over to his chauffeur and everything stays basically in alignment. Calls Cody a phony. Says Cody's afraid to show who he is. That's why he has all these different gimmicks, all these different pieces to him. Says that he's someone mediocre wearing something meaningful, and that's all it takes. Flat out calls Cody a fan. And he says that's his why. That's why he did it. Now we have in the rationale for the John Cena heel turn, we have it simply that he does not feel that Cody Rhodes is worthy of filling his shoes. Now, Cody did respond, noting that the fans chose him. Someone else chose Cena, and we don't talk about that person anymore. He also called out Cena for hanging with Zac Efron. He also tells Cena that he created a bunch of disenfranchised fans. And not to act like he cleaned his own room before he left. Going back to the old way Cena was thought of before the good feelings over the legacy of his career took over the last couple of years whenever we've seen him in appearances. Cody told him he's his hero, but also a piece of shit. And Cena said, like all this people, your brain is full of feces instead of facts. Cena noted that he's never been protected in the way that Cody has, and that he's never left, that Cody had to leave. And I think the big line at the end of everything, Cena says that he makes empires for billionaires, and all that Cody does is steal from their kids. Clever enough line. And Cody ends his last word by just noting that they've never chanted, "You can't wrestle," at him. They're about to face off. They're about to do their thing. Cena backs off, then goes for the cheap shot, eats a crossroads. First piece of real physicality between the two of them. First piece of real interaction where it seems like they're actually listening to each other when they talk. And if reports are to be believed, if advertising is to be believed, this is about all we're going to get in the Cody Cena dynamic. Now, I'm sure we'll get several promos from Cody as he's been doing, interacting with other people. We just started, Jose. Don't worry about it. Interacting with everyone. I'm sure he'll cut more promos on that, but this was kind of it. So as far as the John Cena road to WrestleMania, that's what we got the last 3 weeks. Now I got a question for you, especially after what we saw tonight in this promo. Why exactly is John Cena a heel? Like, think about it. Why is it that they needed to turn him heel? Has his heel turn even been necessary? If you recall, most of us felt like they had to change something to the dynamic of this match at WrestleMania. Face Cody versus face Cena seemed like it would be a pretty bland build and honestly lead to a mixed reaction for Cody. But now, after we have the full complement of Cena heel promos, I don't really know what this heel turn has actually accomplished. I feel like we're in the exact same spot we would have been in had they have not turned Cena heel, only they used up that as a major point, as a major button to push. I'm not saying they're wrong for pushing it. I still would have probably pushed it in any event, but is this really what we needed? What we asked for? And more importantly, is this doing any good for this match? You think so? Then why are we getting a mixed reaction out there? And why are we getting let's go Cena and Cena sucks, Eddie? If he's got 100% heat on him. That's not the case. And sure, Cena has done a lot of healing on the fans, but none of that's made the product any hotter since the first night. Or neither does that want. Excuse me, and neither do you want to invest in this match based on that promo. We got a reason for this match, but it's not like anyone believes that it'll be the end of the world title, regardless of the result of this match. And like I said a couple weeks ago, Cena does have to address his relationship with the audience. It's a very unique thing about his character. So if you're gonna turn him heel, there has to be that into the rationale. But eventually we're gonna have to connect that with Cody. And okay, Eddie. And my point is, look where we've gotten to. That was the joy of seeing the heel Cena, and what we've got to is a regular ass Cena Cody program with Cena simply playing the role of the heel, but them all cutting basically the same exact promos that they would have cut otherwise. Like tonight, they finally addressed it and declared it that in the promo, according to Cena, Cody's not a worthy successor. And this isn't bad. It's just already like worn territory, even for Cena. I mean, Cena's been having this basic premise to his feuds for like the last 8 or 9 years, ever since he's basically transitioned into being acknowledged as an old guy wrestler. Remember him telling Roman Reigns that he could be a better old-timer, that be a better part-timer as an old-timer or something like that to Roman Reigns? He basically had that to Roman Reigns in like 2017 when they first feuded. And if you liked this promo segment tonight, which I don't think it was bad, but if it really got your attention, it's probably because in different spots they went there. But then again, we've been there before. All this stuff that they brought up tonight has basically been said in other promos before. I mean, Triple H told Cena he couldn't wrestle way back in like 2006. And Cena told AJ he was going to bury him in 2016. Last year, Punk threw the "Who Chose You" line at Drew, and that got a hell of a reaction, but that was last year. And how many storylines since Cody came back have been about him leaving for AEW? I feel like all this is in a retread, and again, probably could have done all of this without actually turning Cena. And these lines, like they were throwing out tonight, sure, they get a rise out of the crowd, but after the slight shock of them saying that wears off, they just kind of disappear. Like, that's always the case with this work shoot stuff. It can work for a minute, but does it actually lead to investment in the match? And when you see this stuff, it's like, is it even that clever, the things that the guys are saying, or is it just like banter from social media? Which, okay, it sounds cool that like a wrestler is saying the stuff we're saying on Twitter, but after that, it has no resonance. So Carlton brings up a good point. Carlton said he doesn't think that we've seen everything. You're forgetting the wild card of The Rock. Really? Where the hell is he then? I'm forgetting him. WWE is forgetting about it. They mentioned him for like 4 seconds tonight. That was a major plot point. They kind of needed that to get the whole dang story going. And they've completely ignored that as well. Yeah, but Eddie, the people at the arena are just, they're playing along for a second. But if they were booing the hell out of him, if this actually mattered, then it would matter. They're just playing their part. And let's be honest, like that's what they're doing, because that's what all this work shoot style stuff is. Azan says that work shoot style is not WWE style. I agree to some point. I don't think it's anyone's style. I think when anyone does it, it doesn't work. And Jose notes that Cena ending the title reign could be, yeah, that would be huge. And I think that would be a real heat getting moment. I'm talking about this build. I'm talking about all this build has been completely unnecessary. Like we've just wasted promo time on you talk about IWC stuff. That's all these promos have been. Dumb IWC stuff. That's what these promos have been. And I just like I don't know if all that is worth turning Cena heel. Like we got to wait for this next 2 weeks of magical build. I don't see it. I think this is a regular freaking Cody versus Cena thing. It's not grabbing me at all. I think Cena's been pretty good in what he's delivered. I've seen some of the logic of it, but what was the point of all this? The Rock's got 3 weeks left. Yep. Carlton notes again that he thought Cena was going to address it when they mentioned Cody. Yeah, you would think, but and again, I don't know why wrestling companies do this. People who follow the product, and not just people who follow the product in the way that we do, but people who I think legitimately follow the product, who watch the things, they can keep things together. They can keep this little nugget from a couple of weeks ago that The Rock was involved in this together. I don't like that we have to do this forced amnesia booking just to get back to the thing that they're going to promote in a few weeks. That makes no sense. Eddie said Cena's going to go get his receipt on Cody with the type of beatdown that Cody took from The Rock. Could be. Could be. So you're seeing that at Mania, Eddie? Because we're not going to see him till Mania. So are we going to see that at Mania? So Carlton notes, I understand where you're coming from. I know they're holding back. Triple H has done a very good job doing a slow build, very slow spark until it becomes a flare. No pun intended, and don't get any titles on any flares as you say that, Carlton. Okay, but to be fair to the IWC, Triple H is an internally slow booker. Okay, like I get slow paced book, and I think like, and the product even in a kind of a down period for right now, light years ahead of where it ever used to be. However, everything with Triple H is slow. Triple H is the molasses booker. Cena will do a surprise attack. I mean, that's a way to get heat. I think if he just shows up and he's there and it's and it's out of nowhere, that may be a way to get heat. I still think it's a let's go Cena. Cena sucks crowd at WrestleMania, and whoop de doo, that was all worth it for that reason. Thanks. I mean, to be honest with you, it's maybe more of a Cody problem than a Cena problem at this point. Because if this is what the dynamic is going to be, then you know what? Let's just move on to St. Louis and get Cena versus Punk, or excuse me, Cena versus Orton, or Cena versus Punk down the line, or something else. If this is going to be this same ass feud, no, I don't think Carlton anyone's asking for Russo booking. I think for like not treating the audience like they can only concentrate on one thing at a time booking. I agree with that, Eddie, and maybe that's the core is like Cody just kind of does the same thing every week. He loves the crowd hasn't really turned on him, but they're just kind of with him there. You don't get the sense of this because there's not like this great story to tell as they did last year. Adam asked who ended up winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle. I have no idea. All of SmackDown feels like undercard right now, so the whole show should be in it and should win it. Yeah, and Eddie, I wonder if we get a little bit more, if we were to get more contrast from Cody, because let's face it, there's nothing wrong with Cody promos, and he gets people into what he's doing, but they can be a little samey. And I think in this WrestleMania season, it's like you said, very vanilla. And then what he has to do, otherwise on the other nights where he just has to cut the promos with other people who are aware of Cena, doesn't work for me. So Azan said Triple H booking issue is he wants to tradition at the same time he wants to think outside. Well, and I think Azan, to be fair to Trips, that's like a hard place to be because like You still have modern wrestling audiences. You have wrestling audiences that are queued up in on all of the recent trends over the last 20 years and have that sort of attention span, and you're trying to reform your product. Carlton said, if you notice, every week Cena has been revealing an extra layer to his heel turn. Tonight was the biggest layer. Um, I would like for them to ever hit on the desperation um, of his situation, because I guess it goes back to the initial part of the heel run too. Is like he didn't even need to be heel to get this shot. But I was thinking going in, the rationale for the heel turn is going to be that they are he's not good enough anymore, and he has to use this outside help. But he didn't even need the outside help to win the dang match. Um, he will, and he hasn't really used any assistance of anyone else to get any upper hands thus far. That would have to be like a scene at WrestleMania, which I'm not discounting that either. You know, probably some big brawl involving The Rock or something like that at WrestleMania. Azan says we need the cocky Cody from ROH. Yeah. So Carlton, you bring up a really good point. I don't know if Cody's trying to break Jose. I don't know if Cody's trying to break the CM Punk record, but it's hard to see when he's going to lose it unless he loses it at Mania. Which I can go either way on that. Still, I'm still of multiple minds about that and haven't refined it. But Carlton pointed out something that I think was very astute. He said, if you notice, more of the IWC stuff came from Cody. Yeah, I think so. I mean, the booing of Cena stuff and all that is pretty IWC, but it's also it's also like not that out of kayfabe. You know what I mean? If you're watching it, all of the other stuff, all the why I had to go to AEW and stuff wasn't cool anymore, and all that. Yeah, that was all IWC stuff. And part of me was thinking too when I'm watching this, like, boy, this would have really hit harder in a lot of previous incarnations. Like even last year was sort of represented as Cody as the face of the new era. And so from that perspective, this was like a very much a retread of that, of like the Rollins feud in that respect. Like I hated that part of that you had to leave. And I said, I just thought that whole dynamic was dumb. That to me is just some IWC crap that we are long past to really be used in storylines. Eddie, have you never watched Cena and all the hillish things he always did during matches? I I think Cena was pretty much hillish always, whenever he'd be conducting himself. I don't think Cody's necessarily one dimensional, but he needs a team. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with being um, a system quarterback, so to speak. I mean, like Kurt Warner is a system quarterback. Joe Montana was a system quarterback. You'd be excellent at running that system. I think that's what Cody. And you could be the best to be the top guy. There's nothing wrong with that, but there is a certain I wouldn't say lack of dynamics with him, but what the tone he sort of hits on, especially in this WWE run, is the is the is the same. Yeah, it's the same stuff. It's the tropes, and for the most part, it works. I hate to criticize any of these people for doing stuff that, like, you know, why'd you fix why won't you fix something that isn't broke? But I think in this scenario, we're seeing some of the limitations of that. Eddie No Teal Cody is a much better Cody. Yeah. And I still don't think we were quite ready for that either, going into this WrestleMania season. What's the price on it, Mike? I have not searched for WrestleMania ticket prices this year. I assume, just like concerts and everything else, they are exorbitant. Exorbitant. $750 per night for cheapest ticket. Yeah, that's pretty steep. That's pretty steep. But not. Yeah, yeah. That's a bummer. That's a bummer, Mike, with the overall ticket prices. Just that's a good thing we should do here in the chat. Well, shoot, Mike, if you got that 10 grand to lend me, I'll go ahead and take it. Put that in the super chat, and we'll take it. Who's going to WrestleMania? That's in the chat. Anyone? Anyone got that $750 to fork over for a single night? Oh, I love the gate celebration. Again, I get the sellout celebration, like, because yeah, you're one of 93,000 or whatever lie. That's fine. Celebrating gate records. I paid a lot for this show. One with reduced capacity. Woo! You gotta talk about those gates. You gotta talk about those gates. Let's talk about the next segment we had on Monday Night Raw, which was the New Day versus the New Catch Republic. Back from the commercial break, the New Day were standing in the ring, and Adam Pearce announced that their opponents are Bait and Dunn, New Catch Republic. Got a nice little ovation for these two. They haven't teamed together in a really long time. The New Day got the pin after like 5 different heel actions. I can't even put them all down, but it was like 5 different heel actions. Yeah, I guess so. Was on. What was he last seen doing? Losing to Penta. Will the New Day and Vikings make me? I don't know. It's a little soon for a tag team build. They've already looked at it. I'd be happy with just a straight match though at WrestleMania and not have it some multi-team match. I think that'd be pretty cool. Kathy Kelly does go on to interview the New Day, and as Mike is mentioning, they are confronted by the War Raiders. The War Raiders make their way to the ring. They have a stare down with the New Day. Kind of a cool stare down. The War Raiders music is kind of cool, the way it was played out like that. Backstage, we have Jimmy and Jay. Jimmy says both of them will beat Gunther. Jimmy's going to do it tonight. Jay's going to do it at WrestleMania. Jay says he hears Jimmy, but to be careful. New Day heel run has been slow. I forget about it in times. But when it's there, it's pretty hot. It's just there's certain parts of the show that kind of die sometimes, and the New Day segment is one of these segments. Which, speaking of segments, I got to say, we went through a match and an opening promo here, and did not yet go back to the Judgment Day's lair, which is an amazing, amazing feat. Here we go to, Mike, and I wonder what was the point of all that, in terms of like people really thinking that was gonna pay off, and I kind of bought into it too. Like if they were gonna mention his name, I thought they were gonna pay it off in some way. But if it's just a piece of heel heat, then it's just a piece of heel heat. Okay, so the match, Jimmy and Gunther, starts out with Jimmy really getting it from Gunther, but he does get some offense in, especially when they come back from break, you get the commercial, but back from break, you start getting the teaser pins. The 1-2, picking him up, all of that stuff. Eventually, we get the technical submission. Jimmy gets in a little bit of offense in this match, but not much. Gunther comes back to choke out. He's getting him in the sleeper. Jay comes out to save the day, like we've seen several times. Back from the break, you have Jay walking Jimmy out, and you have an attack then by Gunther from behind, attacking both of them. At one point, Gunther gets a zip tie. He has him kind of on the middle of the rope, and he ties Jay to the middle of the rope, and he just starts beating down Jimmy in front of him. I mean, Jimmy is getting him in the submissions. Jimmy's bloody. There's blood all over Gunther. It's a lot of blood. Lots of blood on this Netflix Raw in this segment. What's up, Boston? Long time no talk. Uh, I mean, and it was a sight. It was a sight, and that's how it ends. It was heat, and then it was a little quiet, intentional, uncomfortable segment. One of those kind of segments. Ask you guys though, did it help with the build to this match? This match seems to be the poster boy for people that are angry at the WrestleMania build. This match seems to be one of the major targets that people are focusing on. And I would say it's been a lot of the same stuff every week. Did this help? So Azan said Gunther went full American Psycho. Eddie said Jimmy bled like a stuck Moxley. Are we gonna get a week of discourse from older? Wait, not gonna say that on this stream. Let's just see if we have a lot of people chiming in on that segment, like a stuck Moxley. I kind of want those nails to scratch my back though. Mike says it's about time Gunther did something to earn some heat. He's been heatless for a year. Eddie says great beatdown. Azan says it's made more serious. And at least Jay has something more than he. Yeah, I didn't think it was a huge expansion on what we had seen the last couple of weeks, but it was a bit of an escalation. Now, I don't love necessarily how much they're framing Jay as this ultimate underdog. I know that's a trope they like to go to, but the guy did win the Royal Rumble. He had been in many main event matches. He even had a very close match with Gunther on the Saturday night's main event just a few weeks before winning the Royal Rumble. For him to seemingly become like a jobber as he's challenging Gunther has been a little off. I don't think I know people were shocked to see him win. It's like, okay, is this tag wrestler who's sort of a a pseudo singles guy that's had this nice run lately in the last couple of years, but not someone that you really thought about in those terms. And that was odd. But the positioning they've done where it's, the Brock Lesnar Gunther style thing, and you've got, I don't know, like Zach Gowen is how Jey Uso has been presented. Oh, I'm not sure about that, Mike and Azan, about if it's a Sunday. I assume it's an opener just to give it like a main event-ish slot like that. Um, I think that would be. I think that's early on. You'd want to get the crowd eating, right? That'd be a good visual there in Vegas. And Austin notes that they've made it more personal, so he feels something for Jay. So then we returned after all of this time. We finally returned to the New Day's lair. It took long enough, but we finally got there. They were all smiles after their recent triumphs. But then, of course, they leave, and there's a little bit of tension, as always, with the females and Finn. He just seems to be rubbing them all the wrong way. But now we got the actual match, even though Carlito was staying back and said they got to do something about Bailey and Lyra. So Penta and Braun versus Dom and Finn. Finn gets the pin here. He got a coup de grace after a series of events where Braun Breaker inadvertently speared Penta. And that was that. Another rare Judgment Day victory. Look, they're on a real roll. Finn has got them on track. Backstage, we have Adam Pearce and Gable. Gable handing, still dealing with his doctor's note, taking it very seriously, is one Adam Pearce. Notice that they're going to be in Minnesota next week. Wonder if Wade Keller is going to answer the open challenge by Grand Americano, because he'll be in competition next week in Wade and Gable's hometown, or home state, I should say. Minnesota. I don't know what city they're in. They're just in Minnesota. I thought we were going to Chicago on Monday, but I got my wrong Midwestern city. I know there's a Chicago visit somewhere in there. We also have Maxine showing up after they are there to mock Gable, and we get cut off as she's talking to Adam Pearce about her career, her in-ring career, about some stuff she's been discussing with Natty. See where all that takes us. Backstage, Kathy Kelly tries to interview Braun Breaker, but Penta interrupts. So obviously, we're headed towards this fatal four-way. And Azan thinks that Dom is going to win the IC belt at Mania. Not a crazy prediction, especially in a multi-person match like that. And depending on no matter what positioning they have Dom in that, I think it'll be a heat getter for sure. El Grande Americano is a good commentary on TKO politics in many ways. Azan in many ways. I did like the recent segment that everyone got all mad about them using the AI to create like the 6-finger dude. I loved it just because in terms of like a heat getting thing, like of course some haphazard wrestler would use some AI to quickly make a mock-up of their history. I think that kind of works. Gulf of America, we'll have to see about that. Maybe that can be where the battle lines are drawn. We can decide what to call the Gulf in a ring. I keep wondering too, Azan, if they're gonna like do something like really go in with the Gable character and really do something kind of hot button like that. I don't think they will. I think it'd run the risk of just getting people to just kind of ask whether their politics to be mixed into their wrestling. So, but they tease around it with that character a lot, and I just wonder if they're ever going to go fully in that direction. Up next, we have AJ Styles out, and they've been hyping that he's going to confront Logan Paul. Logan Paul comes out there. Boo! I mean, this guy can get booed like nobody's business. But Logan does say he's more mature now. Him and AJ are forgiving each other for past indiscretions. And AJ calls him a name that I won't say on here that the crowd chants. AJ also praises him for all of his talent and asks Paul what he's going to do with all of that talent. Paul asks him if that's a threat. AJ says it's Raw. They're in London and he's in his gear. And this was the excuse for Paul to back out of a match or a fight on this night with AJ Styles, which got a lot of heat. And he kept saying that the London couldn't afford him. And he called everyone broke, called everyone poor. Ha ha, Logan Paul just called you poor. That was where that's where the part of the heat was, and just from the general hatred that people have of Logan Paul. But Logan asked to set his sights higher. Points to the sign, which that's as good as a contract signing, right? Pointing to the sign is pretty much binding. After the pointing to the sign, though, Logan attempts to kick AJ. AJ catches the kick. They go out of the ring. AJ's getting the better of him. Back in the ring, though, Logan Paul gets him with the low blow on the rope and hits a pulverizer on him. Lays him out. Seemingly, there we go. As we knew it was coming, but there is your WrestleMania match for Logan Paul and AJ Styles. I really thought we would get AJ in the IC picture coming out of the Rumble and in those couple of weeks, but they seem to have pivoted to that multi-person match, and it's not the worst thing for either guy. You didn't really have anything good this year or seemingly natural to do with Logan Paul, so I guess this was the next best thing. And if anyone on the roster, maybe other than Randy Orton, can communicate like the old man who was annoyed with the young influencer. I think like one of the oldest guys on the roster, like AJ Styles, could probably communicate that the best. And let's face it, even at almost 50 years old or however old AJ is, he can still go. And I think we know that that Logan Paul pretty much always performs really well for these big matches. I'm sure the match will be pretty good and have a fair amount of heat on it. You may not like Logan Paul's position in wrestling. You may not like Logan Paul, not just from a heel perspective, but who he is personally. But I don't think there's any doubt that his segments and matches can be very, very engaging and usually are. Azan says that AJ's Mania feud's always been the same outside of his championship matches. We were talking like Orton. I'm trying to think of the other ones. Shane. He tends to have championship. I feel like he has a lot of championship matches at Mania. Not I'm thinking off the top of my head. Jericho, that was early. Shane, LA Knight, Kevin Owens. Why do I not remember AJ and LA Knight having a match? I don't recall that at all. I think my brain has like energy saver mood on like WWE from like 2020 to like 2023. I know all of it, but like it doesn't fit in like a logical order for me. I just know Roman's like the champ the whole time. It's pretty much the only thing I can tell you. Even though I watched, did podcasts at that time, it doesn't imprint on the brain the same kind of way. It was last year? Jeez. Huh. Okay. I'll believe you. Then we go back to the Judgment Days layer, and they're all happy after all the victories, but Liv is, of course, trying to sow discord over who should get the title shot. After all, she notes that Dom didn't mess up his shot in the way that Finn did. So we got calls of Yoko, Liv, and all kinds of stuff from the commentary team, which for a second I heard Wade Barrett's voice when I was up getting my tea, and I was like, yes, we got a Cole Barrett night. And then I heard McAfee. Rough night I thought McAfee had too. Like wasn't overly grating, but every time he spoke, he was just maximum McAfee. He did get the one guy mixed up with MVP, the MMA fighter, and then was calling him Venom instead of MVP. Clearly did not know who he was, which I mean, I don't blame him. He's not the most famous guy, but that was kind of funny. So we got our main event to finally settle all of this that's happening in the women's division. Rhea finally gets her rematch against Io, even though their match 2 weeks ago was to determine who was going to be in the match. I don't know. This keeps going and going and going. For the most part, though, this was a normal, just pretty good match with Bianca not really playing that big of a role through most of the match as special guest ref. Until Rhea accidentally boots Bianca and boots her out of the ring. And at that point, Rhea gets the best of Io and gets like a 20-second visual pin. And at this point, they start weaving in this narrative from Wade Barrett on commentary that Bianca is just completely in the tank for Io and is completely against Rhea in this match. And it was kind of like Jesse the Body Ventura in the Saturday Night's Main Event a couple weeks ago when they were trying to like put some sort of injustice out there that I don't think actually happened or was a little over dramatized from where the announcer was bringing it to. But Rhea then eventually starts attacking Bianca. And then Io accidentally hits a drop kick on Bianca. So Bianca, the only ref that's competent apparently in the last like 20 years in wrestling, just calls the bell for a double DQ. Azan's asked what was Adam's logic for Belair's ref. I have no idea. And it makes no sense. It's supposed to be like an important match when you want your best referee on there. Where the hell was Rob Zapata on this one? I feel like they name drop referees every now and then. It's just constantly Rob Zapata. Like Michael Cole like saying Zapata or something. So outside the ring, Rhea and Bianca have a little brawl. Io hits a dive on both of them outside of the ring. But in the end, Rhea standing tall over both women after an extended piece of physicality. The crowd chants one more time, and we get a second rope riptide from Bianca to Bianca from Rhea. And that's how we went off the air on this edition of Monday Night Raw. I absolutely agree with you, Azan. Rhea build during this has been a mess. I think the biggest missed opportunity this year is probably what's going on in that night one main event. Just because I think there's just other things you could do with all three of those, and I think you could have bigger and better things. With that said, that build has been nowhere near as messy as this thing, or nowhere near as weird and awkward and making no sense and just making everyone look odd in this scenario. Like, to be honest with you, Bianca seems to be the only one with a modicum of like a little bit of integrity here. Io is the forgotten Io who just chimes in every now and then, and Rhea is sucking all the energy out of this thing, which she should in most situations. Rhea should be the center of attention, but they never really turned her heel. She's just like this really jerk baby face to these other baby faces. She gets cheered because she's awesome. There's no logic for this being a triple threat, which that's where it's leading. Just for them to drag it out week after week after week with a little bit of a little trinket here, a little bit of trinket there to keep progressing and keep progressing and keep progressing. I just don't think this has been a very good use of anyone's time. I don't think either one of these characters or any of the three of these characters are looking any better coming out of this. Doesn't feel like a particularly hot angle. Doesn't feel like there's a particularly hot women's match that's going to happen at this year's WrestleMania. It's just kind of where we are, and it's really unfortunate because the roster is really good, but this is what they booked us into here. This triple threat where everyone kind of likes everyone involved, and it's just cheering for Bianca, but there's no real story with any logic to it. Eddie's got Paul turning on both Roman and Punk. AJ Styles versus Logan might be a great match. Low key, AJ can't have a bad match with anyone. I mean, I had no hope in or faith in the match he was going to have at Shane at WrestleMania 33, and that thing was amazing. I have a feeling, the match will be good. Plus, Logan's pretty good with the spectacle. Eddie said he would have had Bianca versus Tiffany. He says anyone but Charlotte and Rhea. I don't even mind Charlotte and Tiffany. I don't love the way the build is going on, but I was able to kind of understand that. And I did not want to see Charlotte Rhea 3. I think Bianca versus Rhea would have been just fine as a straight up singles. I know they had done a lot with Io in the lead up. So I understand maybe they wanted to have her in some kind of prominent position, but they're the ones who put her in that position. It's not like she asked to be put over in all those matches and have all those really long matches that they had over the course of the winter that were really making her seem like a real top player on the show. And that was Raw for this past Monday. Let me know in the chat as we're still here. What are your after digesting that Raw and everything we talked about, the Punk stuff, the Cena? We didn't talk about much Punk stuff, but the Cena stuff, no real progression actually on that storyline. Just to recap from Thursday, and we got Seth Rollins next week on Raw. That was the other tease, but all the discourse about WrestleMania and the build and all that people were engaging in last week. How are you feeling about WrestleMania right now after we've just digested Raw? Sound off in the chat while I take a big old gulp of my tea. B plus is what Eddie rates it. If we're going on a grading scale like that, it's hard to go super, super low because even despite my reservations about at the top of the show, the Cena hill turn and all that puts out there, um, puts that on where you're going to pay attention to it, and this is a notable build. He also says he loves Gunther ass whipping of Jimmy. And Austin says he thought it was a great Raw. Cena and Cody didn't disappoint. He's more excited for Jay Gunther now than before. I think the Jay Gunther thing was important to people tonight, and I saw it some other places as well. I think that resonated and had like just added something to this doldrum storyline. But yeah, as I'm thinking about it now, going through it, the women's side of thing is there's just not a lot going on there, and I wonder if we go through it. There's always like a bunch of multi-person matches. So I don't want to be so prisoner of the moment right now and think like, God, is this just WrestleMania 2000 where it's just multi-person matches? But boy, this feels like there's so many of them on this year's card. And it's almost like hard to keep track of the build because so many people are involved tertiarily. Are they going to be fully involved? It's a lot of wheel spinning right now in WWE. Finn and Dom was the only disappointing thing for you. What was that disappointing, Eddie? Just out of curiosity. Eight out of 10 hype for WrestleMania is what Austin's got going on right there. I assume you made an enhancement talent there, but I like him being an enchantment talent as well, Eddie. But no, I see what you're saying about the guys that kind of never win. Finn, that feels like it's particularly rough on because like even with the regime change a few years ago, it's not like it changed for Finn. Like I think he was maybe positioned in a little bit more serious manner, but it still basically has had this with even in the Judgment Day, he can't get anything done even in the Judgment Day. Like that's basically his character within the Judgment Day is his incompetence. Let's pull out before we get off. Let's go to the Wikipedia version of the card. I would always like to pull up the Wikipedia card just to see where we're at right now. So Austin asks, and I throw this out to the rest of you guys in the chat. Does Cena have to win at WrestleMania? Because Cody has made a lot of bold statements. Does Cody have to win? That's a really, really good question. There's a few things that play. If Cena wins, you've got to get the title off of him again. So you have to get the title off him. I don't know how long he would keep holding that title for once he got it. I think either result is acceptable. I think a Cody Rhodes win would you could frame that as the biggest win of his career. 2 years in a row, he beat Roman Reigns, John Cena. He has taken over. He beat the evilest John Cena. He overcame The Rock. There's something there. However, I think the way more dynamic end would be Cena winning that match. Cena winning that match undoes all that crap I just said at the top. It completely undoes all that. It makes it all worth it, I think. And you have a little bit of Cody in a chase. I would assume Cody be the person to get it back. But I think if you really want to draw some heat with this Cena thing, you will have him with the title. You will have him, hoarding, really digging into this character in a way that maybe they can't right now. Have Orton take the title off of Cena at the PLC before Survivor Series. It's a long time of Cena holding that belt, because are you going to want to see those some Cena face matches before it all wraps up? Are you guys all in on Cena just being heel all the way through? And for the record, I mean, they're selling merch at every one of these stops. They're still doing everything they needed to do at the as part of the Hina. Still that twice. The Cena like farewell tour, regardless of the heel turn. They're getting some of the monetary benefits that they would have got anyway. So Eddie's got a scenario here. Eddie's got the scenario, as I mentioned earlier, where he has Orton taking the title off of Cena at the PLC before Survivor Series. And then heel Cody beats Orton at next year's WrestleMania. He's got Cena turning babyface again at Survivor Series. At some point, we're getting to Cody versus Orton. And you had the two of them interacting with each other last Friday. It's happening at some point. I haven't really had that penciled in for next year's WrestleMania, to be honest with you. It's plausible. You would never convinced me in a million years there was going to be a Cena heel turn this year, so anything is possible. Austin thinks there's more rivalries to explore with Cena. The funny thing is, like, maybe it's part of the misgivings that I have with the Cody feud at the moment. I'd almost rather see the Cena heel thing. We always say, like, work with younger people or work with the people that are on the top of the card, more contemporary people. When it comes to Cena, I just want to see him in a heel role, digging up these old rivalries and feuds with the Dynamics turn. I want to see him feud with Punk. I'd like to see him feud with Orton. I like to see him have interactions, even though they're both heels, with Owens, with AJ. I'm trying to think of some of the people that he's a significant history with that's still on the roster. Obviously, Rollins and Roman. There's some stuff there. Oh, and then Eddie's got thrice in a lifetime happening at the PLC in December for the last match, right? That would be his last match. Would he lose his last match to The Rock? Oh yeah, absolutely. Those two have had so much chemistry over the years and all the iterations. It was, I mean, almost every feud Cena had, but particularly in that one, they always met. Seemingly, I want to think. Yeah, I think Punk was fully heel. Even at Money in the Bank, people forget that Punk was heel going into that match. Was wearing the new Nexus armband. It just obviously was getting cheered like a crazy person in Chicago. But I think every one of their feuds, like he's been in the middle of like a big heel run. That's what was missing tonight, boss. I'm glad. Karrion Kross is in his contract year. Does he stay or does he go? I was just glad I didn't get him interrupting a Sami Zayn promo tonight or an interview. What the heck? Are they all okay? The Judgment Day was later in the show and we didn't get Karrion Kross interrupting everyone backstage. What writer got sent home? Is Road Dogg booking Raw too? What happened there? Man, before coming to WWE, felt like what do you go by? Was it Killer Cross, right? Killer Cross he used to go by. Do I have that right? Is that the right guy? Felt like there was a lot, like there was going to be more to him, and then even what the NXT character was versus the one they brought up on the main roster. Just not. No, I saw that turning out. Impact Impact's own carrying cross is what he's going to be showing up on NXT. If Cody beats Cena, what's next? What's Cody's next rivalry? And he suggests Drew. Drew's been the one that he's been in his proximity with. Also Orton, but I think you're in a more heel time with Drew. I honestly wish I went for years being very critical about Drew, and he just did so much in this last year, and he's stuck in nothing right now for WrestleMania. Talk about being an odd man out. He definitely had to fill the guy that you need to do something with right after WrestleMania because you're not doing much with him during WrestleMania. Hey E, yeah, just a scheduling issue last week. So E's got Cena for sure winning, and I'm shocked that Cena has Gunther winning. I've been for ever since this build started and has not since it started, but since the build's been going the way it's been going. At first, I thought there'd be no chance that they would do all this kind of hype with Jay to have him not beat Gunther. And then as the feud has gone on, I kind of felt like they maybe weren't positioning us to believe that he's gonna win or want him to win. I'm not quite so sure about that, but I could definitely see Gunther retaining. I think if it was put in a much more prominent position on the card, like if it was the night one main event, then no question, I think Jay would win. But I definitely could see Gunther winning. Austin, I don't know that they would necessarily have to be related because, and Austin's asking if Gunther wins, does Cody win night 2? Fans go home happy. You have another main event though, night 1, which is going to determine that'll determine people's happiness, right? And how they go home. What year was it? Well, all those Roman years, right? We didn't get like a happy ending on night 2 of WrestleMania. You would get those kind of on night 1. Those are some of the Bianca matches. Eddie's got Jay winning after what he saw on Raw. The booking for this is the booking on what, Maria, specifically? Let's see here. So Mania World, the Hills win. Cena, Gunther, New Day down for the IC title. Maybe it is WrestleMania 2000. Hillomania. Multi-Manomania. I say multi-man because there was a women's singles match on that card. So here's what the old Wikipedia has right now for WrestleMania. So with night 1, the only things they have listed in night 1 is, and I don't know if Randy and KO is actually night 1. Was that actually announced, or just how Wikipedia has it? They got Randy and KO night 1. I keep forgetting that match is happening. Not really a good reason why I'm forgetting that match is happening. If it happens on SmackDown, it kind of feels like a black hole right now because that show is just interminable right now, if that's the correct word. And the other match is when we know this will be happening on night 1 is the Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, triple threat. Will the favor be fulfilled? This isn't the favor, as was mentioned on Thursday. Who walks out of there with that one? That's going to be interesting to break down. Punk's favorite be he wins the triple threat match. He's next in line for either Cody or Cena. I assume that's what's going to be built into the match, is like a real tangible number one contendership there somewhere. And maybe that's how you get to Cena versus Punk with this new dynamic. I just assume it's going to come later in the year, but I mean, shoot, is Cena working Money in the Bank this year? Seems like as good a time as ever to do that. So night 2, like, and I don't know why. Oh wait, no, that's just what's confirmed for night 1. Night TBA notes this as Cody versus Cena, which is definitely the night 2 main event. Stratton versus Charlotte, who I forget are still having a match on this show. Gunther and Jay, Io and Bianca, which that match will change. And AJ versus Logan. So we have to see how some of that gets distributed. Obviously, Cody and Cena will be night 2. That is our official WrestleMania card so far. Again, so if you actually look at it, there's only right there one multi-person match booked. We know there's that Intercontinental title match is going to get a little more bunched up. And you know the women's world title match will get a little more crowded. But it's not as many multi-person matches as you're thinking in your head. It's just those two, the women's title and the Roman Punk Seth one, that really stick out. In particular, the Roman Punk Seth one, because I think that's where a lot of the ire of this year's WrestleMania build comes from. No, I don't know that we need to see Cena with a bunch of young guys, Maria. I kind of disagree on that, especially where he is in his career, his capabilities, and just with all the history they have. I kind of just would want to see him finishing up those feuds. Not that I'd be against him in a young. I also think he would eat a young guy alive. Like this heel character would probably consume. Look what it's kind of doing to Cody. I can imagine what it would do to a lesser individual on the microphone. And it's funny because I can't believe this, but I'm advocating for an Orton versus Cena pay-per-view match because apparently I hate myself or something. Actually, I like myself because I'm going to go to bed way earlier tonight than I normally do on a Raw post show. This was fun, guys. We had a little bit of debate, a little bit of discourse, not just me half asleep going like, "Hey, Raw was good. Catch us on a podcast, everybody." I thought we had some discussion, some debate. The chat was active from YouTube for a change, getting in on there. So I really, really enjoyed that, and I really, really appreciate it. Apologize for the dip in schedule the last couple of weeks. E's always sending out the missing persons report. I keep getting lost, and E keeps locating me. That's actually what keeps happening. And then Zach says, "Can you do a show?" And I'm like, "Can I do it on my own schedule?" He's like, "No," but that's what happened. So on that note, guys, I am gonna sign out. Let's have an early night. Let's go to bed with all our smarky thoughts. Catch you guys, most likely, 99% sure, next Monday. Take care, guys.